Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I think we're going to wait just a minute or two just to give people a chance to join in with us. I did want to introduce you to our speaker, which is Nicholas Cawthon. He's going to be speaking for us today. Whenever you're ready to get started, Nicholas, you can go ahead and start.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, maybe we'll wait maybe another minute here, see if we get any stragglers, and then we'll get rolling. But yeah, maybe in the meantime, I'll tell you a little bit about us, Valmont. So, we're a perforated facade manufacturer supplying perforated, expanded, woven wire mesh, and curtain facade systems. And our specialty really lies in providing sun control, aesthetics, and fall protection for parking garages, which is what we're going to talk about today, as well as many other projects such as arenas, schools, hospitals, corporate facilities, and really so much more. And I think the real big takeaway from us is that we're going to supply the entire engineering for your project, including supplying the embeds outward. So a lot of other, perforated facade manufacturers are not going to supply any engineering, or they're just going to take it from the subframing out. We're doing the entire thing. So additionally, most applications that you're going to see today span floor to floor without any additional secondary framing as well. So yeah, kind of keep that in mind as we go throughout today's presentation, and we'll kind of get started. Looks like maybe a few more have joined. So a little bit more on Valmont. So, we were founded in the 1940s by just one man. His name was Robert Daugherty. And Robert actually invested his entire life savings. And he bought this company called Valley Manufacturing. And then about 10 years later, in the 1950s, his business partner and him created and put a patent on the center pivot irrigation machine. So if you've ever been, flying over the Midwest and you look out the window and you notice, all these polka dotted farms, these circular farms, that is a center pivot irrigated farm. So, and that's kind of Valmont's claim to fame, is this center pivot irrigated system. So now, present day, Valmont is now this huge $3.5 billion company. And the division that I represent and that Griggs Systems represents is called the Valmont Locker Group. And Locker is actually based out of Melbourne, Australia. And, they've been manufacturing and installing perforated facades for almost as long as Valmont has been around. So Valmont bought the Locker Group about 15 years ago, and then we brought distribution here to the US about 5 years ago. So a little bit more on, just kind of a little bit more on Valmont there. And I'll play a video here next and kind of notice how many divisions Valmont represents and is involved in. And it also kind of explains our sustainability commitment as well. Valmont, serving resources. Oh, no audio. Okay, yeah, apologies for that if we can't hear the video. Anyways, maybe we'll skip that. And luckily there's really no other videos throughout today's program. Yeah, apologies for that. Anyways, we'll go ahead and dive into the AIA portion for today. And really today we're going to touch on how a perforated facade and safety barrier design can be integrated into your parking structure, and really how these systems solve challenges such as code compliance and operational risk management. We're also going to touch on how innovative and cost effective a perforated facade can be engineered to solve a lot of different challenges, such as fall protection, free airflow, as well as light pollution abatement requirements as well, all from a very designer-friendly palette of perforated and wire mesh material options. So, this course is registered with the AIA. It also does fulfill that HSW component as well. So we'll make sure that we report these credits on your behalf. And I think Veronica will help me out with that, at least getting everybody's AIA number to me. And then we'll get that reported by the end of the week. And, as far as our learning objectives go for today, we have 4. And hopefully by the end of today's presentation, you as a participant will have a little bit of a better understanding on, life safety and really why it's imperative to protect people, vehicles and objects from falling off our parking structure. Then number 2, we're going to take a look at the benefits of occupant and vehicle fall protection, especially when that's incorporated within a, really a single system. Third, we're going to take a look at some of the options that are available to you that satisfy life safety, light pollution reduction, as well as free airflow requirements. Also the systems that we're going to take a look at today require, little to no secondary framing, and they all utilize a purpose-built attachment system, which installs, very quickly, especially helpful in this tough labor market or a union labor market as well. And then lastly, we'll take a look at material choices and finishes and design options that are really available to you. So, those are really our 4 learning objectives for today. And we'll try to stick to those as much as possible throughout today's presentation. And, please feel free to stop me at any point if there's any questions along the way, or enter those questions into the chat box, and I'll hit those at the end. But let's get into that first learning objective and kind of analyze those major life safety considerations for above grade parking construction. And, kind of fun fact and maybe, not so fun fact, people drive their cars off parking garages. And, believe it or not, there doesn't seem to be a month or a year that goes by that somebody doesn't drive their parking garage off, somewhere. So not only do we need to keep cars on the parking structure, but we also need to keep people and objects on as well. So, we'll talk about code requirements and structural safety here shortly, but really, you're looking at 4 commonly used methods that are used to keep vehicles on that parking structure. And, we'll take a look at examples of all of these. First, we have that 7 and 11 cable barrier system. 7 is going to be okay for pedestrians. I'm sorry, 7 is going to be okay for cars, but not pedestrians. 11 is going to be okay for both. We have precast or cast in place concrete. We also have CMU options. And then lastly, we have that galvanized steel W-beam, which is what your perforated facade manufacturer is going to offer. But let's kind of touch on code first. And building codes do provide minimum barrier requirements, yet cars still get through. So within the IBC, the code requirement for vehicle drive-through, that's actually only about 1 paragraph long. It's a very thin section of the building code. And you have to comply with the IBC as well as the ASCE, and that's in chapter 4.5.3. And within that chapter, it states that vehicle barrier systems for passenger vehicles shall be designed to resist a load of 6,000 pounds applied horizontally, in any given direction. And then that barrier should have anchorages or attachments capable of transferring that load to the structure. So here on the right are a few examples of cars that have decided to leave the parking garage. And as you can see, cable barriers, all, not that all necessarily effective. Luckily, that car in the upper right didn't go all the way through. But we'll touch on some more examples of insufficient barrier types next. Here we have, this picture was actually taken by my predecessor last year. So this is October 2022, downtown in a Honolulu garage. This is obviously not going to hold a car. It's a long way down to the ground. We're actually kind of looking on tops of those palm trees. And, that's not going to hold 6,000 pounds. And that wheel stop isn't holding anybody back from driving off if provoked. So kind of a poor example there. Here's another kind of a poor example. This is in 2021 in December. This guy in Orlando, Florida, drove his convertible off an 8-story parking garage. And then somehow he was able to run 2 blocks from the scene, only escaping with minor injuries. So kind of another scary example there. Here's one in Jacksonville, Florida. This is 2022. And maybe I'll skip over this one if the video is not producing sound, but same audio show. Okay, yeah, apologies there. So yeah, it's just a reporter kind of going over that a cable barrier system failing. So yeah, apologies about the sound there. Here's another example, Austin. So this is in Austin, Texas. This guy drove his Toyota 4Runner off a 9-story parking deck. And I'll read to you what this one engineer had to say about cable barriers. So using multiple strings of high tension, half-inch cables as a parking lot barrier in lieu of a concrete wall is increasingly common. But such cables can rust and loosen over time, either of which can contribute to a barrier falling if hit by enough force. So yeah, I mean, you could see that that vehicle just dangling off the edge. And actually a year later, this happened in 2016. In 2017, a woman drove her BMW off that same garage, off the 7th story. Then a lawsuit followed shortly after that, and part of that settlement, that garage owner had to upgrade his entire garage up to code. So again, some scary examples there as well. And it's not limited to cable barriers. So this driver drove their vehicle through a concrete barrier on a 4th-story Orange County parking garage in September of 2021. So it's just not limited to cable barriers. Cast in place concrete, CMU, can be faulty as well. And some of the reasons for these accidents was summarized in part of a Structure magazine article. This article was written by Mohammed Iqbal, and kind of look at the name, look at his credentials in front of his name. He's a doctor of science. He's a PE, structural engineer, as well as a lawyer. He's got quite the resume. Basically, he says, wheel stops are not a substitute for vehicle barriers. CMU has to be properly detailed with adequate reinforcement. Same goes for cable barriers and concrete walls as well. So on the next slide, we'll talk about costs. And these are direct costs for a variety of systems that are available to you. And this probably not super accurate for today. We went through a lot of price hikes during COVID, of course. But what I can tell you is that galvanized steel beam, second from the bottom, that's going to run you about $30 to $35 per linear foot of material. And that installation cost is really negligible when that's incorporated as part of a facade support system. And actually, recently, I was just talking with a design build contractor. He told me that he was carrying $35 per square foot for CMU. So for cast in place concrete, for CMU, even for cable barriers, you're carrying that material up 42 inches in height from the slab to provide that fall protection. So, you're timesing that per times the linear footage, it can get pretty pricey. You do see that cable barrier system a little bit less expensive with the direct cost. However, that system needs to be installed by a specialty contractor, Coordination is also required when, running those cables through the columns as well. So something to keep in mind as well. So on the next few slides, we'll talk about keeping, vehicles, people, and objects from falling off our parking structure. We'll talk about vehicles first. So my boss actually took this picture. This is in Long Beach. And, as you can see that this is a 5-cable barrier system, which certainly doesn't meet any code. And that little curb isn't preventing anybody from driving off the edge. So to meet today's code requirements, we need to meet a few different items. So first off, we need to have gaps no larger than a 4-inch sphere, and that's 42 inches or below. Cannot be climbable. The aperture has to be less than a 1/2 inch. Top of barrier handrail is required. You also need a toe kick. So this example that we're looking at here really poses as a significant owner liability exposure. Let's talk about preventing, people from leaving the parking garage. And, we see this criteria used on, almost every single hospital, especially the VAs. And sadly, these are some of the things that we need to do to plan for and limit owner and professional liability. And really, your garage isn't a prison that keeps pedestrians from moving in and out freely. However, we can use some techniques that prevent people from leaving the garage in an unsafe way. First off, a facade perimeter barrier, such as the solutions that your perforated facade manufacturer can supply for both new and retrofit construction. Trees and landscaping, trees can be planted along the perimeter of your garage to, provide a deterrent against, people from jumping off from a location that doesn't provide an open landing area. And once again, it truly is it's a terrible thing to think about, but prevention of suicides from your garages is, everything needs to be evaluated. Geofencing, whether that's motion detection or monitored cameras, regular patrols, prevention help signage, providing a phone, as well as just providing the staff, the garage staff or security with sufficient training on how to handle a potential, suicide situation. And then objects falling from height as well, whether that's accidental or purposeful. We need to keep objects from leaving the garage. And here's that same parking garage in Santa Monica. And that's not, again, my boss took this picture. It's not his Starbucks cup, but that cup blowing off the edge, that could really mess up somebody's day. Probably won't cause damage, but it certainly could inconvenience someone. And I'm sure we have some Mythbusters fans in here, or at least we've seen the TV show Mythbusters. They actually did an experiment where they were able to crack a car windshield with a styrofoam cup full of soda at 40 miles per hour. And you can see off that first bullet point, an object falling from 40 feet, that's going to hit the ground at 34 miles per hour. So very close to what they replicated in that Mythbusters experiment. And then, again, kind of keeping with that same theme, we need to keep objects from leaving. And, wheel stops. Are they friend? Are they foe? They must be maintained, and they must become a means for not becoming a falling debris. So for structural safety, if you're not maintaining your building, pieces like this become subject to becoming a falling debris. And, unlike some products or systems, your perforated facade manufacturer is not necessarily going to provide a system that's, tested. It's all calculated engineering. So you're not just taking a product off the shelf and using it, much like you are, for a concrete wheel stop. So keep that in mind as well. We'll talk about in this next section, we'll take a look at what the perfect parking garage looks like for the built environment. And, what are some of the elements to a perfect parking garage? First off, safety. We need to provide a safe environment where we eliminate the possibility for objects, people, and cars from falling off. We also need it to be functional as well. We need it to park cars, right? Design, and this kind of follows function. We want to offer a palette of design offerings with a multitude of different options. And this really allows you as the architect to explore your creativity. And then we also want it to be future-proof as well. There's ways that we can build a parking garage today that can be used as something entirely else tomorrow. So we'll take a look at that. Safety first, and I'll kind of skip through these so you can see all the annotations. So we want to have a mindful design and to keep people, cars in the parking garage. And this is really what a perforated facade incorporated with a W-beam, crash barrier really implores. And as you can see from this image, it's well lit, it's comfortable, as well as it's also being a good neighbor. It's keeping noise and headlights out of that surrounding environment. Also, notice the lack of secondary framing as well, being very safe and cost effective. So here featured, you can see that I see a perforated facade using expanded metal, as well as that incorporated galvanized steel beam crash barrier. So this example that you're seeing here does meet code here for projects in the US. And your perforated facade manufacturer can also provide pedestrian safety solutions for the interior of your garage, where you don't necessarily have a facade. So, such as a galvanized W-beam crash barrier with an adequate fencing and handrail, as you can see here pictured. So we'll kind of take a look at some projects that are utilizing a perforated facade with that galvanized steel beam, W-beam crash barrier. And actually, this project I just drove by Monday. So I was just in San Diego, and I'm in Las Vegas today. But anyways, so this is the University of California, San Diego. Great project. This is actually kind of looks like that right now, still under construction. Architect was Gensler, contractor was Swingerton, and this project should be wrapping up by the end, or kind of, I guess, beginning of fall. So a few more months. Nice LEED certified project out in San Diego there. Here is another project with that same contractor, Swingerton. This one, I drove by it as well. Super unique because the crash barrier, the perforated panels, which you see in black, as well as those white panels, those are actually Kingspan light and air translucent panels, were all installed by one contractor, just with one set of shop drawings for that entire podium. Perfectly plumb, perfectly level. All that was designed, detailed, and coordinated by that perforated facade manufacturer. So greatly reduces that inevitable chance for field and coordination issues during the install. And that podium will be a prominent visual display of that building. So another project that's being wrapped up here, could be wrapped up hopefully by the end of summer. Here's another project that's under construction. This is Astor Park in Columbus, Ohio. So this is the parking garage for the Columbus Crew Soccer Stadium. These are diagonal panels, which are suspended on stainless steel cables. And we'll talk about a cable supported system a little bit later on. If you notice, so the panels are actually flat on either side. And as they move towards the center, they articulate forwards, and then they, go flat again. So a really unique project that's, again, another one that's kind of wrapping up here. Yeah, can't wait to showcase the completed project photos. But anyways, here's another one that's being wrapped up. So this is Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus. So this is a huge project, over 43,000 square feet of canvas area. Vertical panel with no secondary framing, spanning floor to floor. It also has a integrated fin, which you can see on the detail to the right. So you can have, that fin can be variable with different lengths. You can have a fin on one side or on both sides of the panel. Either way, absolutely doable. So a nice project as well. Here's another project that unfortunately never ended up becoming a reality. I think it was canceled due to COVID, kind of back in the day. But this was a design assist with ZGF Architects and Clark Pacific for the precast. So two different panel types, one with fins, one without. And the perforated facade manufacturer got the first look at this project in early design development in October. And then just 3 months later, that manufacturer had that design assist contract. So super quick. So you have louvers, you have perforated and expanded. And that manufacturer was able to solve all those problems and then get an embed layout to the precaster so that he could start his work well in advance. Unfortunately, again, just never ended up becoming a reality, but I still like to showcase it. It would have been a great project. Here is San Jose State University parking garage. This is completed with Watchery design. All they do is parking garages. So this is a cable supported system with image perforation technology, which you see here on the image to the right. So we have a lot of different a mix of folds and different colors, a lot of different patterns as well. So a really cool project, and I think it might be in your neighborhood as well if you're in that Silicon Valley area. So this is a completed project that you're more than welcome to drive by and kind of check out. So again, that's a cable supported system, and we'll touch on that. We'll touch on that next. Here we have the LAX Conrack project. So this is in Los Angeles, and I just drove by this one yesterday. So this is the largest rental car facility in the entire world. So 6.3 million square feet. I believe it can park 21,000 vehicles. So we have a cassette panel with a fin on each side. So kind of looking similar to this, spanning floor to floor without any additional secondary framing as well. So this is utilizing a 11 cable barrier system. So you do not need to use, your perforated facade with that W beam crash barrier. Of course, I would love it if you did, but does not need to be utilized with that vehicle crash barrier protection. It can be used with whatever you want and whatever meets code. So just keep that in mind as well. And we'll take a look at some other parking garage designs that can certainly be replicated. So here's a cool example. Shapes, articulation, imagery, ventilation, all incorporated within this structure. This facade is certainly not plumb or level. It does utilize that picture perforation technology that you see in I think that's a penguin or some sort of crow or a bird that you see at the corner. And you also have triangular shaped apertures on the right side and the left side as well. Kind of a cool project. Perforation patterns can mirror cultural significance, as you can see shown here, or you could do patterns in different colors. So it doesn't have to be a picture. It could also be a design. So this design or even pattern simulates the pattern of a palm tree. So that can certainly be done as well. You could do articulated grids, as you see shown here. And your manufacturer can also display imagery within the perforations, like we saw earlier, which can pay homage to your city or incorporating branding for your facility. So your parking garage can be that placemaker. So instead of saying to your friend, hey, let's meet at the corner of First and Main, you could say, hey, let's meet at that really cool parking garage downtown, and they'll know exactly where to go. So, and look at the level of detail within those perforations. So that's not paint. That is just tens of thousands of different hole sizes making up that imagery. So really, and we'll touch on it later, but really all you need to do is provide your manufacturer with a JPEG or a PNG or a PDF of your image, and then they can perforate that into the panels. And that can span across multiple panels through an elevation, or just each individual panel can have a different image or the same image. Here's another cool example of some unique capabilities that your manufacturer can provide. And this, I mean, to me, this project looks fake, but it's an actual project. So here we have 3D perforated vertical panels on the right, which utilize a directional perforation. And then we have screen printed imagery over powder coated picture perforations on the left. So that's kind of a mouthful. Let's break that down. So on the brown panels on the right, those are folded. They span floor to floor, and then they have a 3D perforation. So think of a kind of a cheese grater perforation. And then on the left, we have a combination of powder coated panels with with picture perforated, which is that cross hatching that you see. And then over top of that, there's inkjet, which is which is over top of all that, making up the imagery that you see, which is, I think this is kind of a passage from a book. So this is a library parking garage. So yeah, really, really pretty cool. Just showcasing what can be done. So, we took a look at some examples of some really cool and unique designs. Let's kind of get back to that idea of the perfect parking garage. And the perfect parking garage today may very well be something else tomorrow. And I'll kind of summarize what Tom Fisher had to say. He's the dean of College of Design at the University of Minnesota. And he's kind of saying is, as this auto culture wanes, we're going to have a lot of demolition to do, right? America is very slowly moving to this kind of this European-based model where we have lots of public transportation options. I mean, I'm seeing it here in Vegas. They have a monorail that runs through the city. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's slowly getting there. So, if we're going to build a parking garage, let's design it in a way that it can have an alternative use for the future. And let's take a look at how to do that. So here's an example of a future-proofed parking garage. And, let's review some of the uses. So that parking garage can be that intermodal platform where we can have parking, flex space, retail, residential, maybe autonomous vehicle staging, and so much more. However, I will note, future-proofing your parking garage does come at a cost. So two examples of these costs would be to kind of increase that floor-to-floor height to accommodate, living, working, playing, kind of everyday life, as well as essentially doubling the live load requirements of your structure. So kind of just some food for thought. But if it were to be converted, that perforated facade can be simply disassembled, reused, or recycled, and then you can add storefront or curtain wall, whatever you want. So just some food for thought. But if you were to convert your perforated facade, it can have some adaptive reuse for the future as well. So yeah, just again, just some food for thought there. And here's an example of an adaptive reused parking garage. So this the image that you see here on the left, that was once a parking garage for Hertz, the rental car facility, and that was converted into apartments and condos. And that penthouse was added a little bit later on. And actually, I always like to talk about the penthouse because I think it's pretty unique. So it's 5,700 square feet. It sold last year actually for $17 million. Taxes on that are $8,600 a month, and the HOA fee is almost $13,000 a month. So you're over 20 grand just in fees, not even talking about the mortgage. So anyways, so it does come with 2 deeded parking spaces as well, which I would hope it would, being that it once was a parking garage. But again, that's just kind of one idea of a parking garage that was converted into apartments and condos. So a unique project there. Moving right along, let's talk about some of the various facade options that that contribute to life safety, light pollution reduction, and free airflow requirements. At the same time, considering that cost and speed of installation. So your manufacturer is going to offer 5 major systems which solve many architectural needs. And we'll touch on the cassette system, the cable system, tension, linear, and fins. So cassette first. So cassette is going to run on a horizontal attachment system, and then the panels are going to attach vertically to that. Very cost effective primarily because no secondary framing is required for most applications, I will say. So the panel margins are going to be solid, not bent, creating that self-spanning system. Cassette is perfect for a variety of perforation patterns, bends, shapes, and you can even do picture perforated as well. So a ton of different options. It's really up to you what you want to create within the design. And here's a quick video of kind of showcasing how that system comes together. So, your manufacturer again is going to provide that entire engineering, including the embeds outward, which you're looking at there. And then you can see that horizontal attachment rail coming across, and the panels are going to attach using slide nuts and fasteners. That video showed an exposed fastener version, but today, we use a concealed fastener version it's through an access hole in the face of the panel. So left out for clarity, the crash barrier, but really, again, you could just see how quickly and easily that whole system really comes together. So that was cassette. We'll talk about cable next. So very lightweight, very flexible. These horizontal designs allow for curtain wall shading, fall protection for parking garages, as well as free airflow. So you can use the cable system with picture perforated, just perforated panels, as well as expanded metal options as well. And speed of installation is also a major benefit within the cable system, which we'll touch on here next, actually. So this is, let's see if the video will play. So, okay, hopefully you can see that. So this is Tank Street Parking Garage, where really the developer was looking for kind of a new brand, a new image, and they solved that with the cable attachment system, along with picture perforation technology. So very easy to install, minimal labor requirements, as well as many other contractor efficiencies, no scaffolding, less trade coordination, and really just shortened general conditions. So this was actually a retrofit. So this cable this building is old. So they had to add and you can kind of see it at the top, a steel kind of a W beam, which assisted in tensioning the cables. So those panels were installed in the shop, and then once they arrived to the job site, just picked up by the crane, installed in place, tensioned down with the supplied jack. They did 5,000 square feet in just 5 hours. So pretty incredible. They covered that entire elevation in one day. So speed of installation again is a major efficiency with the cable system, as well as the other systems as well. They really do install pretty quickly. So yeah, can kind of see how that video goes on there. For the sake of time, I'll cut it off. And here's that San Jose State University parking garage job. So multiple colors, flat panels, folded panels, as well as picture perforated as well. So yeah, we kind of already touched on that a little bit. Linear, I won't touch on linear just for the sake of time, too much, but linear is an extruded system with a variety of different shapes and profiles. It can be designed for unitized installation as well, reducing install time and labor costs. So a lot of unique capabilities with linear. You can do multiple colors. You could do a gradient of colors like they have on these two jobs that you're looking at here. And again, a lot of different profiles to pick from as well. So that's linear. We'll touch on fins next. So that image to the left that you see, that is Colorado, Robson Arena at Colorado College in Colorado Springs. So very similar to that linear system, but now we're kind of looking at perforated fins. So these attach directly to that horizontal rail attachment system, just like we saw with the cassette system. So super fast install, perfectly plumb, perfectly level using slide nuts on the rail. And again, just that same extruded rail to attach here. Attaching to curtain wall, like you see on the bottom right, is also very doable. So we can attach via knife plate to the curtain wall mullion. And that's actually Valmont headquarters on the bottom right in Omaha, Nebraska. So kind of a cool job as well. And then next is tension. Lengths are virtually unlimited. Handling is just kind of, you're just kind of limited on the handling by the weight. So thus the tension system is site assembled. This works in both hurricane and seismic zones. Patterns can be interwoven or custom, typically using stainless steel or brass. So another great option there as well. And then that parking garage barrier, that galvanized steel beam, steel W beam barrier. So this can be used with all cladding systems, offered as a completely engineered system. So one trade is going to install with one manufacturer's material from the slab edge outward. This does also have, ICC approval here for projects in the US. And, I will say it's kind of inevitable that maybe somebody's going to drive off and damage, go over the toe kick and damage that crash barrier. However, that is kind of installed in sections. So much, or kind of unlike cast in place concrete or CMU, where you would need to do a lot of rebar work and a lot of concrete repair. This is the barrier is designed to bend, with the load, thus not damaging the slab. And then that can just be, disassembled, removed, and then replaced with a new barrier. So again, a major benefit there as well. So, your cladding solutions provider should work with you in Revit to verify design options and intent. And then your manufacturer, you can actually supply your manufacturer with your Revit model. They can make sure that the project is feasible, model over your IFC or what you've given your manufacturer, and then involve all the stakeholders, output that information into Navisworks, which allows for free and easy viewing for anybody on the team. And then projects are delivered as delegated design, again, from the embeds outward. So your manufacturer is going to provide all the engineering needed for any particular project. And this model here illustrates the cassette system with that integrated crash barrier. So everything is done in Revit from design to shop drawings, kind of all the way through, making sure everybody's really on the same page. And then home stretch, we'll talk about materials. So we'll kind of identify those material choices, finishes, and design options that are available for code compliant parking structures. So we'll kind of touch on perforated, expanded, as well as wire options. Perforated first. So lots of perforated options. Some are less expensive than others. So the open area of that system may be greater than that of the panel alone due to the panel shape. So a single panel can be customized with different open areas throughout that single panel or across that entire elevation. Perforated is available in a variety of materials, including aluminum, stainless steel, steel, Corten, as well as zinc as well. And a lot of different finish options as well, which we'll touch on kind of later on here shortly. So a lot of different factors and panel profiles contribute to those actual free air calculations. It's not just the perforation percentage. So some things to consider are hole size, hole shape, perforation percentage, as well as the pattern. And your manufacturer can assist you in providing free air calculations, which are helpful, especially with custom perforation like laser or picture perforated, or you don't just have that standard profile. Three-dimensional options are also available. So pretty much in a limited array of hole size and patterns. You're kind of looking at that cheese grater perforation on the two to the left. So this is kind of called dragon scale as well. And then you have partial perforated on the right, where you kind of have that punched perforated with the rest of the metal is left on to kind of create a built-in shade for each hole. So, and that can be square shaped, it can be C-shaped as you see shown. Can be a lot of different options. So it's really, again, really up to you what you want to create. here you have a few different shapes. So these are just the standard kind of stocked options. But again, your manufacturer can really come up with anything that you want or that you desire. So yeah, here's some options here, and I'll kind of just flip through these for the sake of time. A lot of different open area percentages as well. And again, your manufacturer can assist in providing the open area percentages and calculations for your entire project. I will say that Champagne is probably one of the more popular stocked options. There's quite a few projects here in the US that do feature the Champagne option there. Here's some more options. And then getting into picture perforated, which we've discussed a few times throughout today's program. So with picture perforated, best options come from a positive image if it's going to be front lit, or a negative image if it's going to be backlit. And look at the level of detail on that tiger, and that photographer is pretty close to that project. So that picture perforated can be produced in up to 15 different tones, depending on the image. So you can use kind of a greater tone if the image is going to be farther away, if it's going to be on the top of a building, a little bit more cost effective. And then if it's going to be a higher level of detail using smaller hole sizes, then that gets a little bit more pricey. So keep that in mind as well. Some of the guidelines. So best done in aluminum, using a light colored powder coat. You can use stainless steel, but it's more for exterior two-tone or text images. More for basic patterns and shapes. I would really recommend sticking with powder coated aluminum. And that's kind of across the board for all systems, not just picture perforated. You could also use steel, but kind of more limited for indoor use. If you are going to use it for outdoor use, you would need to hot dip galvanize the steel, or your manufacturer would, and then paint the panels. And sometimes, the holes can be filled in with paint. So really powder coated aluminum is truly the way to go. And here's some things that your manufacturer would need from you in order to budget a picture perforated job. So first off, the picture of the image, whether that's a JPEG or a PNG or whatever you have. Also, what the panel's attaching to, if it's something that's already existing, or if your manufacturer is coming up with that subframing. The canvas size, how big is the project going to be? The substrate, whether that's aluminum, again, which I really recommend, or if you're doing stainless steel or steel. The coating, whether it's powder coated or anodized or just painted, as well as if it's a positive or negative result. So just some things to keep in mind, when budgeting picture perforated. And if you just want to see what the image would look like, picture perforated, then you could just send that over to your representative. Also expanded, we talked about perforated, we'll touch on expanded as well. So probably the most cost effective of all the choices is expanded. So that panel size can actually increase as during the expanded operation. So even a perforated metal can be expanded. So a lot of different options for various open area percentages, including materials such as aluminum, stainless steel, corten, and zinc. So a lot of options there. And then really expanded was kind of used for industrial applications, right? Kind of for grid walks and platforms. But now it's really making an architectural appearance, and typically using a diamond-shaped aperture and appearance. This project that you're looking at here was Moda, and actually I drove by this project as well. So this is out in San Diego, using expanded and laser cut metal for the letters. So again, expanded is probably going to be that more economical offering, and it does really feature an architectural appearance as well. Here's another project done with Gensler. So this is Denver Tech Center. This customer really wanted a specific design that another manufacturer actually offered, but that manufacturer never called them back. So this pattern was duplicated in this manufacturer's factory. So kind of another nice shining example of using expanded metal. Here's Moda again. So that same project that we just looked at. So laser cut letters, and the requirements for this project was that they didn't want any visible framing through the void areas in the letters. So, this was solved using the cable supported system. You can kind of see the cables running down with, laser cut expanded metal. So really, really cool project. This is actually much bigger than it seems from the picture. So here's the backside of that same image. So that same project. So you can see how those cables are attached, running from the parapet to that fixed location below. And then wire. So again, nearly unlimited lengths are available, a variety of different patterns, typically using 3/16 stainless as well as aluminum. So perfect for providing curtain wall shading and other architectural details throughout your structure to provide sun control. So another good option there. And then kind of home stretch materials. So really, like I said earlier, powder coated aluminum is really going to be your best bet. I would think 90% of the projects that your manufacturer has completed have been with powder coated aluminum. Second choice is stainless, but that's a little bit more expensive. You also have steel, but that's going to rust. So I would really only use that if you wanted Core 10, which is weathering steel. You also have zinc, brass, copper. A lot of different other options are available per request, by your manufacturer. So if you wanted something super unique, just reach out to your representative, and they can likely make that happen. So those are the material choices, and then finishes. Like I said, powder coating, really the way to go, offering the best warranty. You can also do liquid coat. Anodizing is probably the second choice, offering a pretty good warranty as well. And then electropolishing and galvanizing. So offerings are certainly there. So that is a wrap, kind of just in time too. I can't thank you all enough for your time and attention, and really the opportunity to present to you what I think is one of the best systems to provide sun control, safety, and aesthetics for your parking garage, which is a perforated facade. So again, thank you all so much for the opportunity today. It's always such a treat when getting the opportunity to present to an AIA chapter. So thank you, Veronica, for setting this up. And I'm sure maybe I'll see some of you at the AIA show next week. So if you if you do see me, I'm a tall guy. You can certainly say hi. So yeah, thank you all so much. Any questions I can hit?
Hi, Nicholas. Thanks for presenting. It was very useful. I do have a question, and if you can follow up later on, that's fine. Would you be able to share any cost information for all these different systems?
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely something to follow up on. So, and I'll get with your representative in that area, which is Greg Systems, and they can send you, which is even better, installed cost. And each project is truly so unique.
Yeah.
So it really does vary, but we can probably put together some options for you. So
Great.
Yes,
you.
my name is Lily. I work with Katia Griggs at Greg Systems. I will talk
okay.
to Katia, and we will send you budget for sure.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Yeah, feel free to add me on LinkedIn if you care to. That's where that QR code goes. So I promise I'm not one of those sales guys that sends you a long pitch as soon as we connect. I post on there about once every month or so. So, but anyways, guys, please feel free to reach out to me or Lily or Katia with Greg Systems. More than happy to answer any questions that you might all have, and certainly happy to assist on any projects. So yeah, thank you all so much again.